Perfection. Is it attainable? The very word conjures up an idea of something unreachable, and that is perfectionism's fatal flaw. Let me bring you into the garden, and let's take a good look at God's creation, which was good. Adam and Eve, I believe, were perfect for who they were. They were naked and had no shame of guilt whatsoever. And then they were told that if you eat of the fruit of perfection, you will surely die. Now let's take a look at it. God made Adam and Eve perfect just the way they are. There were no rules, real rules, except for they did serve God, they did work in the garden, they did do what they had to do, but they didn't have a legalism or a perfection over the top of them. They were happy in the garden. Until Satan came along with perfection and took the contentment that they had in perfection, that they had, the perfection that they had, and made them attain to a perfection of their own. The perfection that came from God, which I believe was the tree of life. They ate of the tree of life, which again I believe is a picture of they're under God's grace, under Jesus Christ. Without any law, there is no sin. But when you start to test them and start to challenge them to perfectionism, they cannot measure up. And they had to be kicked out of the garden, out of the area where the tree of life protected them from perfectionism. Then they ate of this fruit and found that they were naked and ashamed and imperfect. I'd like to relate this to finding perfection on earth. Let us say, for instance, that I was to build a house, a quaint cottage, perfect in the sense that it was almost like a Kincaid drawing. And it's made out of wood and stucco and it's thatched roof, and the picture is perfect. And then I begin to test the house. Is it hurricane proof? Will the wind knock it down if it gets hit by a tornado? Maybe I can make the house with a steel undergirding, so this way it will be perfect even when a hurricane hits it. Is it earthquake proof? Well, if it's made out of stucco, the earth, when tested, right, the earth will shake and the foundations and the walls will crack. You see, when I start to really strive and make perfection harder and test perfection, all of a sudden perfection loses, because the house was designed to be perfect without all that testing. So let's say I make it so that this way the walls have earthquake-proof and tornado-proof power to be able to withstand the winds and the shaking of the earth. What happens when a flood comes? Well, I'll build the house up on a hill so that no flood could reach it, right? Can the house survive underwater? I can modify the house to make it survive under the water. The house is starting to now look a little bit different from the perfection that I had in its place. What if the mountain it's on is a volcano and it erupts? Shall I make it eruption proof? So the perfection of this house is now changed to be able to withstand the heat of lava and the blast of a volcano. What if the ground opens up and swallows the house? Will the house be able to have an anti-gravity device in it to stop it from being able to fall into the earth? And what if the earth was to disappear altogether? Shall I make a floating island in space that will hold this house? Will it be a happy home? You see, I'm just maybe taking this to the nth degree about perfectionism and perfectionism tested. God made all things good. in the place that God made it, in the time that God made it. And God made Adam and Eve good in the place and the time that God made Adam and Eve. When we start to live our lives with our total focus on perfectionism, what we do lose is the perfection that God gave us resting in His grace. The perfection that was that cottage that sat there that felt like home all of a sudden becomes a prison where you're stuck there, and all you're doing is not enjoying the house that you were given. What you're doing is you're trying to perfect something that didn't need that much perfection. Now, this pertains to Lordship salvation. This pertains to your Christian walk. Is it good to work? Yes. It's good to strive. But realize that if you are not content with the perfection that God has given you, you may exchange it for a perfection that God didn't give to you. Perfect example was the story of Mary and Martha. There was a perfection. Jesus was a guest in the house of Mary and Martha. And Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, enjoying his company. And Jesus was enjoying Mary's company. That was perfection. But Martha, deciding that it wasn't perfect enough, said, well, I need to clean the house. The house has to be in good shape, in perfect order for Jesus. And I need to cook, and I need to clean, and see, Jesus, I'm busy. I'm doing this, that, the other thing. And all of that working that she did, that Martha did, made her lose sight of the perfection that was in front of her, the grace that sat down and wanted to enjoy her company. God bless.